Hello, everybody. Welcome back to Mover Ruins Movies. It's been a while. For those of you that are new to the channel or new to Mover Ruins Movies, I'm Mover. I flew the F-16, F-18, T-38A, and then T-6 and T-38 in pilot training. Today, we're going to take a look at the film A Million Miles Away with Michael Pena, who's playing astronaut Jose Hernandez, based on a true story and his journey to becoming an astronaut and becoming the first migrant in space. We're not going to take a look at the whole movie, just a couple scenes, really just a T-38 scene, because that's what I know. And for those of you that are new, Mover Ruins Movies, it's in the title, Ruins. So we're not going to just appreciate the movie and sit here and be quiet, because that would be boring. So I may pause and I may talk over the movie. So let us begin. A Million Miles Away. T-38. All right, we always look at how they got the life support equipment first off. So it's not terrible. That looks-ish like a T-38. The T-38A has a parachute that you wear. The NASA T-38, I'm pretty sure they changed the seats out to the Martin Baker seats so that they actually are in part of the seat. The parachute's part of the seat. So this is quasi-correct. However, so he's wearing a seat belt, but he's not wearing a real harness, because there needs to be some quick releases for parachute risers, and those just like adjustments. Those right there just look like adjustments for the straps. They don't actually look like quick release for a parachute riser. So while it's correct that he wouldn't be wearing a parachute, it is incorrect that this harness system, that's all wrong. Also, there's mountains back here. T-38s fly out of Ellington, unless they were TDY for some reason or whatever. So not a lot of mountains in Ellington, which is in Houston. They fly over water, which also would require them to wear a horse collar. If you ever watch any of the NASA videos, they're wearing the horse collar LPUs, life preserver units, which is what inflates if you jump out into the water. So yeah, we're not starting out so great. So he's kind of flying here, I guess. He's got his finger on the trigger and he's got both hands on the stick, which I guess if he's not a pilot, which I think by the time he got to NASA, he had his pilot's license. So I'm not sure why he's flying two-handed. Not to say that you never fly two-handed. I've done that when BFM, but probably not in this case. So let's continue.
You want to earn that blue suit or not? Yes, sir.
So they're going downhill in Afterburner towards the mountains. Probably not a good sign.
Do you know where we are? We're 35.
So this is mostly correct. The center display is accurate because the T-38, the NASA T-38A got the upgraded, which I wish we had, display. There's a whole lot of data here. So it says it's in metric, which I don't know. NASA might do metric. I don't know why they would do metric. Aviation, except for a handful of countries, is in knots and feet. So they may be doing metric just to get them used to it. We don't know. But typically you fly in knots and feet. So I don't know about that one. But that, oh my God, look at that UHF panel. I don't know where that's from. This here at the top. Wish it would go away. Yeah, they even say we're 35 miles north of Houston. So they're saying they're in Houston, but there's mountains. So somebody didn't pay attention. Is cabin pressurization? We got an old school ADF there. They're screaming towards the ground, but their VSI is 0. The cabin altitude shows 500 feet. So it's at 1,300 meters. I would say it's probably not pressurizing correctly. And yeah, I don't know what cockpit this is supposed to be. I mean, some of it looks T-38-ish, but some of it does not. Anyway, again, Mover Ruins Movies. We're being nitpicky. Obviously, it's a movie.
Miles north of Houston at 23,000 feet.
Okay, so he's using feet. So all that was wrong. We're using 23,000 feet, which means they're not using metric, which means that whole display was wrong because 1,300 meters. I know it's freedom units, but it's not 23,000 feet as far as I know. And yeah, so disregard all that stuff. Pretty cool. They got the little canopy fracture system here, which I don't know if I don't know anything about how they rig their seats for NASA, but it's just interesting that they did that. So they probably just scanned one. So it probably is correct. I don't know.
On course 210, except now down is up and up is down.
Okay, so if you've roll inverted, everything that's loose in the cockpit, especially if you're maintaining altitude, which is what they're demonstrating, is going to fall out of your pockets. I don't know what mass this is. Your guess is as good as mine. I've never seen this one before. Pena's in the back was correct. This looks like something from Top Gunner, but same thing here. You can see the buckle here. That's not attached. That's not a quick release for a parachute. So, and that's like felt. Like his hose this is like some kind of gas mask or something. The prop people must have been like, well, we ran out. We're just going to use whatever.
Good. Now show me how to land this thing.
Yes, sir. Clear Richmond via vectors to Houston. Fly runway heading down 6,000.
Okay, none of those words make sense. Clear Richmond, fly runway heading down to 6,000. You're 30 miles north of Houston. What now? Runway heading is when you take off or when you go missed approach. I don't know what they're talking about here.
Feet, approach 120.9.
Okay, so I'm not sure what they're doing. Is he being the wizzo in the back for him and vectoring him? So they're out in the airspace and he's like, hey, find me home, pretend like you're the controller, which makes sense. We do wizzo training all the time in the military, and we have them do that. But it's like they garbled a whole bunch of words together and didn't know what it meant, because you're at 23,000 feet. You're not going to go down to 6,000 feet runway heading and contact approach. Contact approach sounds right. That part I like. The rest just was stupid.
Thank you.
And thank you.
Release your mic, Hernandez. Your mic is still hot.
Yeah.
Again, don't know about. So this is a question I had watching this. In the T-38A and T-38C, the mic push-to-talk button's on the throttle. In helicopters, it's often the trigger. But in jets, it's usually not the trigger, except for like old school military warbirds and stuff like that, where they rig it like that. So I don't know if they did this just so they would have something more visual for the movie, so you could see what the stuck mic is. Because stuck mic is correct, although he just vectored. So the intercom is hot mic all the time in a T-38, unless you have one of the newer ones and you can turn it off. But if he's transmitting outside the cockpit. So he would be hitting the button on the throttle, or if it's the stick, it's fine. It's the stick. But he just gave vectors to the front seat guy. It wasn't a read back. The scene doesn't make sense. That's all. It just doesn't jive.
Release the mic, Hernandez.
Oh, it's stuck,
What do
sir.
you mean it's stuck?
But a stuck mic is a real thing. And a wizzo draining all your SA in training or in real life is a real thing too. So this all checks.
Kid, let it go. You're tying up the tower.
You wouldn't be tying up the tower 23 miles north of Houston.
I'm trying, sir.
Or however, 30 miles.
Clear the line immediately.
That wouldn't happen either. Clear the line immediately. Yeah. They would be probably on guard telling you got a stuck mic, though.
I can't. The button's
Release
stuck.
the mic, Hernandez.
I'm trying, sir.
That's the 939. You got traffic on your right.
We're at 3 o'clock, sir. 3 o'clock. Traffic now.
Okay, so what did we learn on that scene? He had a stuck mic, and they nearly hit somebody. This is out in the mountains of Houston. For those of you that live in Houston, congrats on your recently formed mountains. But I get what they were trying to do, because I think this was a real story. He had a stuck mic, and they had traffic conflicts or whatever. But it sounds like they were not in the airspace. They were doing some kind of navigation sortie, and he was in the back trying to maneuver them around, and he got a stuck mic, so they couldn't hear. And then they got a traffic conflict because they didn't hear the point out. But if he had a stuck mic and he was able to hear, then it shouldn't have been a factor anyway. And Sturkow in the front should have been looking outside too. So it's just a weird scene. I'm not real sure. I get what they were trying to do because I know that he did talk about there being a real stuck mic thing, but I feel like the writers kind of didn't understand what was going on because they just garbled a whole bunch of pilot stuff together, and the prop people really did them wrong here. And then the CGI is bad. I feel like they should have gotten real T-38s. It can't be that much more expensive. In fact, it's probably cheaper than CGI. But anyway.
We're 30.
But there's back to that. You can see that we're all in metric here. We're talking feet and meters, and we're in metric. And 35 miles north of Houston, you're not talking a tower. All right, moving on. So anyway, what do we learn? Overall, I mean, it's actually a really good make them tell you no story, because he, over like 13 years, was denied, reapplied, made his resume better, made his application better, made himself more competitive. He got his pilot's license. He started scuba diving. He started running. He did a lot of stuff. So the actual story, I recommend it because it's a great make them tell you no story. It's highly inspiring. It's highly motivating. It's real cool. It's a heartwarming story in the end. But no movie is perfect. And sometimes they kind of half-ass stuff. And that's pretty much what they did when they got the T-38 stuff. But, average person's going to notice any of that stuff? Nah, probably not. It shows you that make them tell you no sometimes works. You don't give up on your dreams. You just keep pushing. And sometimes the answer is no, but sometimes you push anyway until the answer is yes. And that's what he did. And that's how he became an astronaut and realized and fulfilled his dreams. Hope you enjoyed this episode. Thank you for watching. See you next time.